Have you been told that the four horses of the apocalypse are riding? That they're out of the barn, so to speak, that they're riding right now? Folks, did you know that there is criteria surrounding these four horses that actually lets us know whether or not these horses are riding? That's the truth. This is End Time Insights, and I'm Steve Cochran. One of my jobs, if not my main job, is to rightly divide the Word of God and deliver that to you. That's a responsibility of every teacher. And in that responsibility, because it is great, I got to tell you, folks, people who worry about teaching but yet stepping on somebody's toes, maybe offending somebody, and you try to avoid those particular messages because you don't want to offend anybody. I don't really want to offend anybody anyway, nor do I want to step on people's toes. There's no fun in any of that, and that I get no pleasure out of it. But I got to tell you, I can go back to the Bible. And I can tell you, Jesus through the disciples and the apostles, they were stepping on toes left and right, and it cost them in some cases their lives. They were offending people. They were going against the grain. So you gotta look past. Am I going to offend somebody? I'm sorry if I offend somebody, but in the end, I'm responsible to God. If there's teachings out there, and you see these various different teachings, and there's gross error behind it, and gross error can affect the way you look at life. You're thinking, okay, this has happened, that's happened, and I should expect this next and that next, and yet you shouldn't be expecting any of these things next because none of those other things have even happened yet. Like the four horses, we're being told that the fourth horse is already rode, and the next thing we're about to experience is martyrdom. Now, how is that going to affect you? If you believe Corona, as was one ministry's been pushing this for quite some time, the horses have been out of the barn for the last 10 years. I had a lady call up and tell me, the horses are riding, they're out of the barn. And she didn't tell me, she told one of the operators. Operator relayed me the information. I'm like, wow. And if you, my viewers, or anybody I encounter, is hearing this stuff and believing this stuff, how are you gonna live? If really what you think is about to happen next is martyrdom, that's going to affect your prayer life. It's going to affect your outlook on life, everything, even about the way you go about your business. And if it's error, wow. Talk about a major blunder in the sense of that we're not about to experience martyrdom. In fact, that we haven't even had any of these horses riding yet. That's like an eye-opener. It's big news, folks. It's one thing to think martyrdom comes next and the fourth horse is rode, but martyrdom isn't coming next, and yet we're still getting ready to experience war. Big contradiction right there, folks. One's right when one's wrong. And my responsibility to tell you is the truth. And if I don't, woe unto me, just because I don't want to offend somebody. I want you to understand the truth. And it's my job that I don't care who's teaching it out there. If we've been hearing for the last 10 years, they've been writing this particular teaching right here, and it's becoming more and more. We're going down deeper and deeper into this, and no horses are riding. Again, very, very big deal. Now, I want us to look at the horses, all of them. There's criteria, as I said at the top of the show, there's criteria that we can look at biblically that'll tell us whether the horses are riding. And it's going to help you understand. Now, I want you to break out your Bibles. We're going to go to Revelation chapter 6, okay? And we're going to get to see the 4 horses. Now I want to say something real quick because I never have a lot of time, and I'm always running out of time every time I do these teachings. I never have enough time. I'm going to avoid the controversial portions of this, okay? I can make my case that these horses, none of them have ever ridden yet. I can make that case based on in-your-face evidence. I'm going to say in your face, and I'm going to avoid the controversy, things that I would think are controversial. Because I don't need to get into the controversial portions of it, because I can make my case based on the actual evidence that I'm going to call in your face. Not necessarily in your face, but it's in our face, let's just say. Okay. Go to Revelation chapter 6, and we're going to start, and we're going to see what John saw. And we're going to look at these horses, and I want to bring out a couple aspects that I think you're just going to find out. You're going to know that you know that you know. And that's what I want you to. I want you to know that these horses are not riding. We're not about to start being persecuted to the point of martyrdom. Big deal. Verse 1, chapter 6, Revelation. Let's begin reading. And I saw when the Lamb opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, a noise of thunder, one of the 4 beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. Now, I want to explain this real quick. I'm not going to get into the controversy. This horse is so controversial, it's ridiculous. So I'm going to avoid this one horse. But I'm going to explain a couple of things I want you to see. I want it to make sense to you. By the way, if you want to know, in the graph, I go in several chapters, I dive into the horse, the first horse. I'm not avoiding the horse. I just don't have time to get into such a controversial subject. And I'm going to show you something right here. I think it's going to make sense. I want you to understand this. It is believed by many that the first horse is either going to be the Antichrist. Some say it's Jesus. Some say it's the spirit of Antichrist. And I don't have time to go through all of these, okay? But I want to make a point that I want you to get this. The Antichrist, Jesus, a spirit. Contemplate this one thing, which you're about to see, and it's going to be it is uncontested. The second horse is going to be considered to be war. The third horse is going to be famine. The fourth horse is going to be death or pestilence or disease. Listen to me on this. None of these are contested, nor does anybody think war is a spiritual war or a spiritual hunger or a spiritual disease. Are you following me? Think about it like this. If none of these other horses are spiritual and they're all real, there are real circumstances, there are real events that are really going to happen. Real circumstances, real events, real war, real famine, real death. Why in the world are we looking at the first horse as some sort of guy or a spirit? If none of the other horses are a guy or a spirit, why do we think the first horse is a guy or a spirit? None of the other horses are a guy or not all the other horses are real. War is real. It's a circumstance. It's an event. It's a happening. It's a trend. So is famine, hunger, real. Not a spiritual hunger, not a spiritual war, not a spiritual death. No, all very real. And in this book, The Graph, I show you how the first horse is the same. It's a circumstance. It's not a spirit. But I want to get past that because I don't have much time. I want you to chew on that for a minute. If none of the horses are a spirit or a guy, why do we think the first horse is some Antichrist spirit thing? Was it a guy? Just something to chew on. And again, I'm not avoiding it. It's in the book. It's in the book, folks. But I'm going to show you, I'm going to leave you without any questions here. Are these horses riding? So I'm going to avoid that controversial horse. Let's get to the second horse. Look at this. Go to verse 3, chapter 6, still Revelation. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And there went out another horse that was red, and power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. Now I'm going to ask, listen, folks. Some questions. Some of you know what a sword is. Biblically, a sword is war. Okay? Did you know what it said? This red horse takes peace from the earth, from the planet. Peace, according to this war, is stripped from the entire planet, folks. That's how great this war is. I'm going to ask you, have you seen in the last decade or something to where peace has been removed from the earth? Because there was such a great war that it stripped peace from the earth. Does anybody know of any war to where that's happened? The peace has been removed. Now, there's skirmishes going on all the time. If you go over to the Middle East, you're going to see wars that have been going on for centuries. I'm not kidding. That's been going on, and it ain't going to stop anytime soon that I'm aware of. So you can't say that's one of the wars that has removed peace from the whole earth. Peace is going to, according to this second horse, peace is removed from the planet, folks. They're going to kill one another, and it's a great war that affects the whole planet. Now, some of you want to argue, say, well, there's been some, there are little skirmishes, folks. Like I said, Islam's been doing that for quite some time, long before I was born, and they're still doing it. But we can find out even more information how great this war is. Listen to me. This gets better. We don't have to speculate on anything. You want to speculate? No, I'm going to tell you, peace has not been removed from the planet in the last decade that I'm aware of. That's how long this teaching's been going on. These horses have been riding. They've been riding. They're out of the barn. I don't know. Anyway, let's go to the third horse. 5th verse. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see. Then I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. This guy's weighing something. What's he weighing? And I heard the voice in the midst of the fourth beast say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine. Now I gotta say one thing. A measure of wheat for a penny and 3 measures of barley for a penny. I like the fact that God put that in there, because it shows me that the ratio is the same. What I mean by that, this is a 3-to-1 ratio, wheat and barley. Barley's basically used for poor man's bread. And depending on where you get your barley and where the wheat's made and that kind of stuff, you're still dealing with almost a 3-to-1 ratio. Wheat is about 3 times more expensive than barley. So I like that this is there because it's showing me that this is not some extraordinary wheat or extraordinary barley. He put it there to show the ratio is still the same as it is today. I love it. But get a load of this. A measure of wheat for a penny. Let's just look at the wheat at the moment. Because again, the ratios are the same. It doesn't matter which I pick barley or whether I pick wheat. A measure of wheat for a penny. What can we learn from this, folks? We can learn a lot just from this one little thing right here. First, a measure of what is a measure? Now, some of your Bibles will rightly translate this. People bicker over this back and forth. Some will say it's a quart. Your Bibles are going to mostly say it's a quart. But some will say it's a little more. Maybe it's 1.2 quarts. Maybe it's a little less. In the end, it's just a quart, okay? Bickering a little more, a little less isn't really going to matter at all. And for a penny, we're talking wheat here for a penny. What is a penny? This Greek word is denarion. It refers to the Roman coin. One of the most popular back then of the Roman time was a denarius. Greek word's denarion. What is its worth? Do you know, studies not only show us what it's worth, but the Bible tells us what it's worth too. You go to Matthew chapter 20, you're going to get to see a story about a man who hires laborers into his field to work in his vineyard. For a day, a whole day's worth of work, he agreed to pay them a denarion, a penny. For a whole day's worth of work. Are you following me? So what would be the equivalent of today? Because this is where we're going, okay? The equivalent of today would be, let's say if we're talking labor, we're going to talk minimum wage, right? The national average minimum wage, you can look all this stuff up, folks. All this is verifiable information. The national average minimum wage is about $11.80, or about $95 a day before taxes. That's what I would expect a laborer to get for working a whole day, is about $95 before taxes. That's about what you... So the bottom line to this, that's going to be the equivalent. A whole day's worth of work back then was a penny or a denarion or denarius. That's what you got for a whole day's worth of labor. Today, you get about $95 for a whole day's worth of labor. What did it buy you? It bought you a quart of this unprocessed, because it's not going to be processed. That's more money. Unprocessed raw wheat. Are you hearing this? Are you getting this, folks? So if it takes me a whole day to buy, and here's arguing a little bit about this again. How much is that really? Well, the calorie intake would be about, most seem to agree, about 3,700 calories. Just to get in the numbers, let's just say it's 3,500 to 4,000 calories a day. That's what this wheat's going to yield to you. What does man live on? Man, it takes about 2,000 to 2,500 calories a day to survive. Woman, about 1,500. These are averages. Please don't tell me and write to me and say, well, it's a little less or a little more. These are averages. I'm trying to give you some ideas. In the end, you're talking about a measure, a quart of about 35 to 4,000 calories. Bottom line being about a loaf of bread for a whole day's worth of work, costing you, if it was today, which is where we're headed, about $100. Did you get that? About $100 is going to be about a loaf of bread. And if you can take even a step back even farther, get this, $100 working all day long just to make enough to handle me and my wife, let's say, for food. All day working to get just enough to take care of me for that day and my wife. If I had kids, it wouldn't even be enough. Because they're going to need more calories too. And that's just for food. That's not including it. It's not including anything else. Nothing else involved here at all. No, I'm working, and I'm going to have people working just so I can take care of our stomachs. Now I'm going to ask you a question. Has any of you anywhere on this planet spent about $100 for a loaf of bread? I hope to God you have not. If you have, I won't complain if you do write me, and I'll tell you where to go shopping. Just go down the street and you'll find a better store that isn't charging $100 for a loaf of bread, not 90, 80, 70, 60, 50, 40. No, folks. The planet has never seen this before. $30, $20 for a loaf of bread. If you watched my previous show, I showed you where Danny Davis, he saw, and he didn't mention it in the episode, but I know this to be a fact. In his vision, he saw, in his out-of-body experience, he saw the family that's there in the store and the kids there. They're on a bread aisle. He didn't say that part. He told me that before. Yeah, the shelves are empty, but in this case, there was a bread aisle and there was no bread. There's people who deem John Paul Jackson to be a prophet. I want you to see what John Paul Jackson had to say about what bread's going to cost.
Just as it says in Revelation chapter 6, a loaf of bread, there may be bread, but what it's going to cost you will be enormous. So much so that they will have to put guards on trucks to keep trucks from being robbed for their food.
Now that's what John Paul saw, folks. Now I'm going to be honest, I'm not expecting anybody to say, well, you're going to have me believe a person over the Bible. No, I'm not. You don't have to base anything on Danny Davis or John Paul Jackson or anybody else. It doesn't matter. Thankfully, we have the Bible criteria. Not what somebody else tells you is supposed to happen or what they think is going to happen. Simply the Bible. And I'm going to ask again a very simple question. Where in the world, anywhere in the world, do you have to work a whole day just to get a loaf of bread? Half a day. I don't care. Where does it cost you $50 for a loaf of bread? Nowhere. So I'm going to ask again, why would anybody think or say this horse is riding or has been riding? How can we say that? Why are we saying that? According to the criteria, nope. This horse has not been riding. Okay? So a loaf of bread doesn't cost me $100 or $50 or $25 per loaf, but we are headed there. And you're going to like, well, I know what you're going to like. I want to give you some more information on this because it gets even deeper, folks. Get a load of this. Now, I didn't mention, I would never have enough time. It did mention the oil and the wine, which I don't have time really to get into, but I'm going to tell you something else about this oil and this wine. When it says, and see thou hurt not the oil and the wine, some of your translations will read, be careful with the oil and the wine. Why? Because it's scarce. That's why food is going to be so expensive, because it's going to be scarce. Now, if somebody is saying, well, have you looked at the shelves lately? Folks, the supply hasn't stopped. We haven't lost to where oil is now scarce or wine is scarce. Okay, I wish I had more time, but just because people are emptying the shelves doesn't mean the supply has gone away. We have to worry that it's a scarce item. Oil or wine is not scarce, folks. People may be hoarding today. Thankfully, the shelves are starting to fill back up. That's the nice thing to have happen. The shelves are filling back up, but just because everybody and their dog wants to buy some toilet paper, I mean, if this is what we're experiencing is in this verse, it should have been the oil and the wine and the Charmin. It's got nothing to do with that. The bottom line is nowhere has food gone up to such a crazy value to where you have to work that long just to feed yourself. Forget your family. I can't even imagine. Let's go right now to the fourth horse. Listen to this. This gets pretty interesting. And when he opened the fourth seal, I heard, this is verse 7, heard the voice of the fourth beast say, come and see. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him. Death means pestilence. And power was given. Listen to this, folks. This is a summation. This is where it gets really, really interesting. We're dealing with a summation here right now. And power was given unto them. This doesn't have anything to do with the fourth horse necessarily. This is a summation of the previous horses, including this fourth. I'll read it one more time. Listen. And power was given unto them over a fourth part of the earth to kill with sword. This is the second horse. With hunger. This is the third horse, famine. And with death, which means pestilence in the Greek, basically. And with the beasts of the earth. Listen to this, folks. This summation of the previous horses gives us an idea of how bad these horses are. Are you understanding? Power was given unto them over a fourth part of the earth, folks, to kill with sword, war, to kill with death and with famine. Just these three things is going to take out a quarter of the earth are going to die. That's the summation to these horses. Are you understanding this part? To sit and say the fourth horse has rode, we would be looking at a quarter of the earth dying from just these three elements. And what does that mean to translate some of the numbers? You folks can look this up if you want. Again, there's about 7.7 billion people on the planet right now. A quarter of that would be about 1.9 billion people dying from just these three things, from war, from hunger, and from pestilence. Can anybody show me on the planet where 1.9 billion people have died from these things, just these three elements at any time? Here's what you can look at. Here's some real numbers for you. Again, you can look this up, folks. 2015. Now, the numbers, they decline as you go farther back, and they only increase a little bit every year and decrease a little bit every year because the population changes by about 1%. So we're not talking massive changes here. But as the population increases, more deaths will occur. As you go back farther, less deaths occur. The whole world's population dying in 2015 of every element, not just three things, hunger, war, and pestilence or disease. No, we're talking everything from falling off a roof, from plane crashes to trains and cars and overdoses on opioids and everything you can think of, including old age. Only 57 million people died in 2015. The whole world population, only 57 million died. Now, the next year is about 1%, 1.14% more. It slowly increases, slowly. And again, farther you go back, here's the problem. If you take everybody, the whole world's population of dying for every reason under the sun, how long would it take at 60 million people dying a year? It would take you almost 2 decades to reach 1.9 billion people. Hello. 2 decades of the whole world dying of every disease and effect. So the point's this. This horse that's only killing, and this didn't get a load of this, is killing by war and by hunger and by disease. Just these 3 elements is going to take out 1.9 billion people on the planet. At least if that's where it happens and starts now. Because the population will slowly grow. This should tell you how big the war is. This should tell you how badly the famine is. This should tell you how bad the disease is. And to say this horse is riding or has rode, and now we're to look forward to martyrdom, folks, you're talking an impossibility, or the Bible doesn't know how to get their facts straight. It's not really going to be a quarter of the earth. It's not really going to be 1.9 billion people dying because of hunger, war, and disease. No, it's just going to be some random number that we want to throw out there, and hopefully the horse is rode. Folks, let's get some sense. Okay. I discuss in detail, because I'm out of time, the first horse, and I want to show you who the first horse is. Get this book, The Graph. Those of you that have internet access, you can preview 9 chapters of this book for free. Just go to CochraneMinistries.com, middle of the page. There will be a video. They'll play from one video to the next, and you can preview 9 chapters of The Graph for free. And you'll understand the first horse, and I discuss these horses, folks. They can't be riding. They couldn't be riding. And for those of you that didn't get the vision and the DVD that gives you the behind the scenes, you're going to want to get the vision too, folks. Danny saw the end. And it's not what we're being told. In the next show or 2, I'm going to give you the 2 witnesses and more prophecy, folks. Don't go anywhere. Hang around to the next show. Look for more to come. Until next time, take care and God bless.